Sure, we are. But our actual decisions and emotional connection is very rudimentary. It's very simple. It's truly about what matters to me, not to my community, not to my shareholders. As much as we love to talk about, let's increase revenue value for our stakeholders. Okay, that's how you keep your job, but that's not really what you care about. You care about keeping your job, which is why we do the things we do.
You know, I'm a huge advocate as well of people accepting who they are, because I think when we don't accept who we are, we become more and more insecure, and then we tend to bleed on other people, right? And because that emotion, it's energy, right? It's going to go somewhere if it's not accepted by you. And at the same time, how do we sort of structure or present ourselves in scenarios like interviews to come across in the version of yourself that can be best presented to the interviewer, right?
So I'm going to jump in here with a word that is way overused, and that's authenticity. And I hope some of you right now are rolling your eyes going, oh my goodness, I cannot believe he's using that word again. We really have to talk about this. But I want to use it in a different sense. And I want to go more towards the way you ask the question in how do we prepare for interviews. One of the great things about good storytelling in business is knowing when a story's not going to work, back out of it, try a different story.
Absolutely.
You go see a movie. You're watching Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Best Iron Man ever, by the way. He is Iron Man. There is no doubt about it. And yet, if you know Robert Downey Jr. as a human being by himself, he really is not like the character you see on the screen. That's not who he is as a human. And yet, when he's there on screen, he is absolutely authentic, even though that's not him. So when we talk about being authentic, it's not that you have to only be yourself with all the flaws. It's about be the person you intend to show. And the only reason Robert Downey Jr. can do it that well is because he rehearses and he practices and he takes direction. He works with some of the best directors in the world that look at him and go, yeah, no, what you're doing here, not that. Do something else. And so as you're doing your interview practice, don't just review possible questions at home, in front of your laptop, by yourself. Do it with someone. Find a friend, a family member. If you can only find your cat, do it with your cat. They're pretty picky people. They will let you know if you're faking it or not.
Absolutely.
But by doing it out loud over and over, tell your stories out loud, you will start to realize what your rhythm is for storytelling. It's not my rhythm. It's not Priyanka's rhythm. But you only get that through repetition. That's why Robert Downey Jr. is as good as he is, because he spent decades doing the same thing over and over. So when you see it on screen, it looks like the first time it's happened. People tell me, oh, I don't want to appear over-rehearsed. No, that just means you haven't rehearsed enough. You haven't gotten to the point yet. You've tried to memorize words. I don't want memorized words. I want you to know the emotional points you're hitting. What are the beats? I want you to have a library of names in your head that you can pull out. Are you talking about Donna Gladhill, Ted Carskadden, Gareth Digby? Who are these people you're going to bring up so that at a snap of your fingers, you're not fishing for Bob and Alice? Oh, do not give me Bob and Alice anymore.
I know, too common.
you know,
Yeah.
but this takes practice. And with enough practice, calling out Donna Gladhill as a user becomes authentic because you already have a picture in mind. How old is Donna? Is she in her 30s? Is she in her 40s? Is she brunette? Is she from Japan and just uses Donna as her name? If she's from Japan, why not go with Yuki? Find a name that's more specific. Where, how long has she been at the company that she's working for? Does any of this matter when you're talking about cat software? Yes, it does matter because that's what makes it authentic. Even though there is no Donna Gladhill and there is no Bender the cat, they become real because you've taken time to get to know them and you've practiced with people. You've told the story out loud. That's how you get to that authentic moment.
Absolutely. I love it. It's so spot on. And actually, it reminded me of something I'd like to share as well. Last year, when I competed for Miss Universe Canada, you're basically walking in 6-inch heels, platform heels. So
First of
like,
all, congratulations on that accomplishment. That is an amazing competition. So, and I have never walked in 6-inch heels. I've done it in 4-inch. I've never been able to pull off 6-inch. Congratulations.
thank you so much, Blaine. I appreciate it. But one of the big, and I think this is that point where I actually remembered you literally when I was on that practice stage, because what they did was we were doing rehearsals, and literally the rehearsals, like we were in 10, 12-hour rehearsal days for a week, right? And I was like, wait, why do we need to do rehearsal for just walking on stage, right? But then they were like, nope, back 6 a.m. tomorrow. And then we'd literally be sleeping at 12 in the night, midnight. And then we have to be back on stage, rehearsal stage at 6 a.m. again next day with your full makeup and your as though you're actually walking the ramp, like completely like PR ready, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
That context, you're sort of, celebrities in that on that platform. And so you have to first of all have this mental resilience, but then when you go on stage, they talked about the spatial awareness, like getting used to the space on stage, right? And they talked about, because when you're walking in those heels, you can't look down, like you are projecting confidence. And as you rightly mentioned, right, even confidence is practiced. And it looks authentic when it is actually practiced, right?
Yeah.
Nobody walking in 6-inch heels on a regular day, just looking up, right? Right. And so that stage also has, like, you start and then there's like 2 stairs. So you walk down 2 stairs and then you kind of walk the ramp, right? And you
Uh-huh.
can't look down even for the stairs.
Nope.
And they made us
And no
practice.
handrail, right?
Oh, nothing, nothing,
Yep.
nothing.
Yep. Yep.
Nothing. And you're in a swimwear. So, any in the slightest of things can be visible. There's no cover of a dress or something. So
It's
literally,
vulnerable. It is
oh
absolutely
yeah.
vulnerable.
Oh yeah. And I think I stepped up and down just those 2 stairs, Blaine, maybe
Yeah.
like 500 times. I'm
But
not
you
kidding.
do it in the shoes,
Yes,
in the
yes,
outfit. So
yes,
it feels the way it's supposed to feel when the actual
yes.
audience is watching.
Exactly, exactly. And so, two things they hit on. One is just getting used to the space and where the boundary ends of the stage so you don't fall off. And two is they talked about peripheral peripheral vision and uh, creating a muscle memory of relying on your peripheral vision, because that is, that's how you're going to know when the stage ends or when you're closer to it, because you're also going to be walking in a certain flow. So, and there's going to be audience, you're going to be nervous, all those things are going to be added, right? So actually, when I did walk, in the finals on stage, I didn't actually feel, my brain felt like, oh, this is just the 101th time. It didn't feel like the first time. So
It's
that's,
it's it's as easy as walking to your kitchen because you
ex-
know exactly where you're not thinking about it. You're just going to the fridge.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
going down the steps. Yep.
Yeah. So you create, basically what you're saying is creating the muscle memory of whatever it is you want to be in this world.
And it becomes authentic. It feels natural. You glide in front of the audience, even though it took days, hours every day of grueling repetition. Great sports teams go through the same thing. And I love the idea of peripheral vision. We're finishing up the World Cup right now as we're recording this. But great basketball teams, great baseball teams, football, hockey. It's all about seeing as much as you can without turning your head, and that only comes through practice. An interview is the same thing. It's about anticipating in advance and practicing. How do you want to tell the story? And, do I do that? Yes. Before, any interview I'm going on, I will think about possible questions and ways I will tell the story. And I will tell it to the person. Even if it's my cat, I will tell the story out loud just to hear how it sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes you think in your head that you sound fine, but when you say it, you're like, wait, ew, why do I sound like this?
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, even,
And
I
then
mean,
do it
even,
again and
yeah,
again and again. Yep.
absolutely. And I think to your point, when you say it to someone else, even if it's a cat, it's still another living being. And when you do that, your brain automatically starts becoming conscious and more nervous, even if it's with your cat. And that's the part you also have to practice is feeling the nervousness before and practicing the feeling of being nervous before the actual interview. So when you go into the actual interview, you're nervous, but you're like, oh yeah, I know the feeling.
Oh, let's talk about nerves. I love this conversation because as a speaker coach,
Oh
one of the
yeah.
questions every class I would teach by, the fourth hour, someone says, yeah, okay, this is all good and that, and we're in our own private little safe space here. But when I'm in front of an audience, I'm nervous. What do I do? And I'm like, oh, my sweet summer child, everybody's nervous. Allow me to
Please.
explain the biological reason why. When
Now
you
it seems like I have woken up Blaine, the real.
this is my passion project, is nerves and public speaking. In the great evolution of humanity, we have learned that operating as a collective is safer than going off on your own. If I am with a group of people I trust, we are better protected from threats, from, very large cats, from fill in the blank, people that are aware if the volcano is about to explode and they wake me up and we all go somewhere else. That collective creates conformity. We are programmed to blend in with the people that we trust. Getting up and speaking in front of them is the opposite. That is you saying, I am going to tell you a thing that you don't know or don't do or need to buy. Biologically, that's against how we're programmed. We are programmed to be in the audience, to be in the collective. The nervousness is telling you, are you sure you want to do this? So everybody gets the nerves. What you do with it illustrates your skill as a public speaker. And to do this, I'm going to go back to our World Cup soccer players, football players, depending on what country you're viewing this from. They get nervous in front of a match. This is important to them. Their entire country's expectation. All of Norway is watching them out there on the field. In fact, more than Norway is out there because that's an amazing team. I'm so sad they lost. The nerves don't get dismissed. They get channeled. Watch the players right before they take the pitch. And what are they doing? They're hopping up and down. They're bouncing. They're caged tigers. And just let me off the leash. Here I go. This is them telling all that adrenaline running through their body, I'm here where I expect to be. Let's go take the pitch. Let's do this. Let's go running. Not away and out to the parking lot. Let's win the game. You feel that surge of adrenaline, start bouncing. Priyanka, I don't know if you ever saw me backstage before I did a show. I'm hopping like a bunny. I'm going.
Now I really want. Now I really want to see that.
And I do this because I'm nervous as a pigeon ending up in the hawk's nest. I am not doing well emotionally before I get a big presentation. But by doing a ritual, and my ritual is I'm hopping. I'm getting ready. I've got my introduction music in my head. I'm bopping along with it, and that tells my body we're about to take the pitch. And the adrenaline then turns into power instead of panic. But I'm feeling the same chemicals every one of you feels. Every human does that because that's how we're wired.
Absolutely. You talked about nervousness being channeled, right? I couldn't have said it better. And I think, it's the same backstage feeling that as you were talking, I was remembering Miss Universe Canada, standing backstage with my 6-inch heels in my swimwear, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. There's like millions of people watching, and I'm like gonna go on stage, and it's interesting because that is that one point where all your insecurities come in like in one
Oh,
second, right? You're
I
like,
can only I can sympathize. I can only imagine. Yeah, yeah.
right? And so then there's someone backstage, Blaine, literally to only tell you, you got this.
You got this. You got the poise.
Yeah,
You got the
yes,
strength. You're
yeah.
there.
And literally there's one person whose only job is
Cheerleader.
to
I love
write
that job.
before,
I
yeah,
want that job.
right? Yeah, you'd be great at that job, yeah. And it's a hard job to do, right?
Oh
Because you have
yeah.
to cheer every single person right before they go. And the thing is, you're standing in a line, and then the line gets shorter. You keep going to the front,
And
closer
the
to the
panic
front.
rises.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think that you've prepared, you've practiced, you've rehearsed, and you've done everything, and then you're still like, wait, why am I this panicked, right? But then I think that 1 second before you're about to get on stage is when that your brain, I think, flips
Your
from
training
panic
kicks
to
in. Your training kicks
your
in.
training. Yes. So then it flips from panic to, you know what, you got this. And then the curtain opens and you just walk. And then, when you actually walk, then you actually are very confident because then the practice and the rehearsals, they all kind of kick in, and then your brain is, and you know what, in fact, I have actually done more than I had expected in terms of the poses and stuff because my brain was so confident. I was pumping that confidence from the rehearsals. So I actually did more than I even did in practice, which was interesting, and it was surprising because you come back and you're like, wait, what the hell did I just do? Right? Like, it was so good. So
But it comes down to you having put in the time and the hours that there is training to kick in. And it's not to say that you can't be successful in an impromptu situation. I think we both have been called up with no preparation to deliver,
oh, yeah.
a customer class or a presentation. But behind that, there's still hours and hours of presenting at other places and other areas. Even if this story may be the first time you're telling it, you're comfortable telling your stories
In
that
general, yeah. It
when someone's going to ask you an interview question you did not prepare for.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay because you prepared so many other questions. You've got a rhythm. You know where they're going.
Absolutely.
I was telling you the story. I was recently doing an interview where someone said, describe in only one word how someone sees you. And, how
Yeah,
would a parent see you? See me as an ally?
sure.
How would a manager see you? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to say I deliver results.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's 2 words. So I'm like, I'm performative. Wait, no, don't use that word. No, that's not the word I want to use. But at that point, I had established a character where I'm someone who has fun. I can enjoy. I can back out things, and I was able to back that out, even though
Right.
it was live and everything. And they all laughed, and I gave a better word and moved on
Yeah.
because I had experience just making mistakes and doing it in front of them. If that had been my first time trying it, I would have curled up and died by saying the wrong word.
I know what you mean. I'm laughing because I've literally done that curl up and died thing
Yeah, yeah.
a few
It's like,
times in my career.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go now. That's it. I'm done. Oh.
And then over time, as you said, you're comfortable with not being so perfect. And I think I think you've taught this in TechU as well, where you said, if something goes wrong, just like, or if you tend to become nervous, just drink a bottle, drink a sip of water and pretend like you're just drinking water.
Yeah,
I'm just drinking water, that kind of stuff. And yeah, and sometimes I've like I said something wrong, like I flipped the sentence, and so that made the sentence technically incorrect. And I was like, so then I stopped myself halfway through. I'm like, and then I tried to correct the sentence, and it still came out wrong. And I did that like a couple of times, and it still came out wrong because sometimes your brain just completely
you're on tilt at that point. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So that I just made a joke out of it. I was like, clearly you can see how my brain's been working these days. Or something funny I said, and then or I just said, oh, you know what? Never mind. Let's just move on. And then everyone started laughing because it was really funny. And I think this brings us back to the sort of how we started this podcast is having fun and using
Yeah,
fun as a superpower, because in the end, when you even the most flawed presentations, the most flawed thing conversations, if there's fun involved, then people forget the flaw part. They're just like, oh, this was so funny, I laughed, right?
they will remember the emotion more than they will remember the detail. So
Absolutely.
being able to have that lighthearted approach to when something goes wrong, you just enjoy it. Oops, can't believe I did that. You didn't ruin dinner. You dropped a glass. Okay, cool. Let's clean it up. Let's keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Blaine, just to switch gears a little bit, I know you've interacted with so many young, very talented individuals over the years since particularly in corporate, since you started um, uh, coaching us in TechU, which, by the way, for those of you, apologies for not sharing what TechU really means. It is actually uh, a graduate program that big tech companies usually have, where they'll hire fresh grads out of undergrad or masters, or if you have like less than 2 to 3 years of work experience, so that it gives you an opportunity to get into the workforce right out of school, right? And so if you're looking to get a job, also please keep an eye out for these kinds of programs
They're
across all
amazing.
the, yeah, they're a great start. You get a enough training period. I call it a runway. Like you get enough of a runway before you need to take off. And that I think is very, very important for those who are in the early career and who need that foundation before building the structure. So so yeah, so Blaine, you've coached so many of us and you've interacted with so many of us. I'm sure you've had so many other conversations. What is something that you notice in people who are in their early career that they really struggle with, that you wish they didn't if they knew better?
I would say one of the big things with early career talented individuals is the absolute reality that the imposter syndrome exists and it is not gender specific.
Mm.
I think pretty much universally, uh, every tech U student, every new hire at Amazon and other companies I've worked for, they look around the room and they see other talented people. And it's different than when you were at university. Very often, when you're at university, you look around and you go, yeah, I know what this class is. I probably know more than that teacher up there. You got the swagger because you've been doing this for a while. And then you end up in a corporate office at a Google or a Microsoft or AWS. And you just know not only are you not the smartest person in the room, you're not sure how you got in the room. Um, this is almost universal. I was teaching a class at a sales kickoff at AWS, and I got the subject of imposter syndrome. There was about 600 people in the audience. It was one of those big theater
Yeah.
places. Said, all right, this is a serious thing. Everyone close your eyes. Think about your first month at AWS and raise your hand if you knew you were the one person who snuck in past the hiring bar and probably shouldn't have been hired. And now look around. And of the 600 people, I think 598 of them raised their hands. It's universal that we end up feeling like we don't belong. And so, my advice to new graduates, to new employees, to people that are starting out, is to trust the process in a way that you do deserve to be here. This is your chair, this is your desk. Are you as smart in the ways of the company as Mark, who has been there for 13 years? No, and you shouldn't be. If you were, something's wrong with Mark, and we have a whole different conversation to have, But instead, trust the fact that you deserve to be there. Now, is it worth making friends with Mark and having him show you the magical ways that he's got and, the secret back doors to the building? Yeah, it's absolutely worth it to become friends with him. But don't feel like that diminishes you, because you've got a power that is unique to you. You've got your insights. I loved theatrical productions when I was directing and producing, because I would get 25 people around a production table. We'd have costumers and makeup artists and stage designers and acting coaches and the talent themselves and musical directors. And every one of them had a unique experience. Some of them, it was their first production. Other ones, they'd been there for 20 years. I needed every one of them around the table because collectively, I had hundreds of years of experience to put on one show. I'm smart. I'm a really smart guy. I'm pretty pleased with myself. But I can't compete with that kind of diversity of talent. You are part of that puzzle piece. Even though you are not Mark, you are you. And if you can lean into that, lean into what makes you you, you become valuable in your first month, your first year. You don't have to be a 13-year veteran to be valuable. That's the advice.
Absolutely. And I think when I started off, Blaine, 2018, I started off in the US federal team, very serious customer set.
Very
I
serious
was,
customers. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was very intimidated by people because they were one, twice my age,
Yeah.
and two is well, I was the only woman. Well, that's a whole other story, but
That's another story we got to fix. But yeah.
oh yeah, totally. Um, and and I would be in meetings with like other senior colleagues of mine with customers, and I would not ask any questions, and like I would just rely on my senior colleagues to ask questions, and I was kind of there for shadowing them. But then over time, like after a month, they're like, oh, like now you can like start talking. Like when is basically they were hoping that the
You're part of the
shadowing would
show.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I just wanted to be in the shadows, right? And 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 then I asked them, I don't know what I don't understand the data center world because I entered into the cloud world. That was my first world, right? So I don't what
Neat. Yeah.
what questions can I ask, right, that are going to be valuable? And they were like, so one of the senior colleagues that I worked with, he was actually also my very first mentor, and so he was a great mentor. So you know what he said? He said, just ask any question. Just ask, oh, why did you do this? Or oh, how?
And notice the
Yeah,
question: why did you do this? Not do you like A or B? It's an open-ended
yeah,
question. Good.
yeah. So you can basically, even if you don't even need to know the context of that discussion to ask that question, right? And so then I slowly started asking very basic questions. And in the back of my mind, I thought, oh wait, is this a stupid question? Is this a silly question? And so I don't feel that way anymore, but I still blame to this day, I'm not kidding you. And I don't know if this is a gender thing, but I have noticed women doing more. Maybe it's not a gender thing, but I have noticed in my personal experience that women will always start a question with, oh, this is a stupid question. This is probably a
Oh,
stupid question, but
yeah.
and so and that's women telling themselves that it's not a stupid question by saying that it is a stupid, by calling themselves out in some way. But I also don't think that needs to be, I mean, I don't know, there's like a balance that can be striked. So enlighten us on that front.
So I'm going to dive a little bit into this idea of gender politics
Sure.
and the way we present ourselves, because it's an important conversation.
Yeah.
And I want to quote Corey Quinn. And if you're big into AWS and you're at all on the financial side, subscribe to this guy's newsletter. I know him personally. He's great. I've talked with him about the start of his career, and he said, the advantage he had is he had the confidence of a mediocre white man. And he will say that over and over to anyone. I am not putting words in his mouth.
Wow.
This is an unfortunate talent that a lot of men have, is the ability to be confident where they have no business being confident, where they simply declare themselves the expert in a field that they maybe saw on Wikipedia twice, and now they are the absolute undeniable authority. Generally speaking, women find that not only annoying, but something they don't want to do. If they want to be an expert in something, they wait until they are in fact the expert in it before they declare expertise.
Yeah.
I respect that. That's kind of the way it should be done. Unfortunately, in the corporate world, more often than not, you're in the same room with the mediocre white men who are more than happy to become the expert, even if you happen to know more than them at that moment on a particular subject. So the unfortunate advice I'm going to give is to have the confidence of a mediocre white man, and don't be afraid to ask the stupid question, and don't call it a stupid question, because odds are the guy beside you doesn't think it's a stupid question. In fact, he's thinking, boy, I wish I would have thought of that one. That's a great question. Because they don't know nearly as much as you do more often than not. Am I generalizing? Absolutely. Am I wrong? No.
Yeah, a great way to put it. And this also ties into how women, Blaine, view job descriptions before they.
Yes.
You're like, yes, let's talk about this.
Oh my! You. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. You tell the story. You're the expert here.
But you know the story. You know the story.
I know the story, but it's your story. You tell it.
Is how women will read a job description, and if it says like 8 years of experience, and a man reading the same job description saying 8 years of experience, and if the woman has 7 but the man has 4, the man is more likely to apply than the woman, because the woman is going to be like, oh wait, I still need 1 more year of experience.
I don't meet the qualifications, therefore I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. And that also creates a biased fundamental pipeline for hiring. And that actually was what companies struggle with now, because they have to like market and promote and create and sort of create a confidence in women before they even get to the pipeline of applying. And so I tell people, so what if it is 10 years? Just apply. I mean, I applied to a job last week which needs 25 years of experience, and I have 9. And
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe, I might fail, but maybe at least I might get through 2 rounds of interviewing. That's still good enough, right? Like you just keep going, right? And maybe someone will go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Just keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
No. I was saying that maybe someone will like you more than someone who may be having a more traditional 25-year background, because maybe you think you have the ability to think outside the box. Maybe you have skills that make you better, more competent in thinking outside the box than maybe someone who has a more traditional 25-year experience. That's what I wanted to say.
And that's the correct way of looking at it. If somebody makes a job description asking for 25 years of experience, ask yourself, what is their business need for someone having this much? Now, is it because they're expecting someone who actually installed mainframe systems? And that's why you need to have been in the operations world for 25 years because nobody's done it. And now we're expecting people to rip out old mainframe hardware. Well, yeah, that's why they did that. But guess what? You happen to have experience replacing mainframe hardware, even though you've only been in the business for 9 years. So there's ways you can look at those sorts of hard limitations and go, why not me? You know,
Which, by the way, are put, sorry to interrupt, just which, by the way, are put by, again, humans who are sitting behind a screen and going like, oh, sure, let's just put 25 years. Because even they don't know what is the right,
no.
they're just kind of estimating, right? Oh, maybe this is what we need. Go ahead.
Now, in a world of AI filters, if your resume does not have 25 years in it, it is likely that a job will AI block you from moving forward, but that's on them. The point is submit the resume. I have found that, as in my job searching, because I'm always putting out resumes to find new opportunities, I get blocked from jobs that I am 100% qualified for, if not overqualified, simply because right now the AI filters are a bunch of garbage. Don't let that get you down. Don't let that stop you from overreaching your criteria set.
Absolutely. And maybe this is a sort of a side note or a point that we might be able to add, which is, do resumes really still matter, or should we strike a balance between resumes and networking and connecting with people and creating relationships early on in our career, enough so that when we actually need it, that we have it and we can tap into those relationships? Do you think
So
there's a
the
yeah,
resume matters because the resume is what the company will use to justify your hire.
yeah,
But at this point, getting that first interview, it's so much easier if you know somebody that you worked with before that you can pick up a phone and call. Um, and this is where an introvert like me has a problem. I got a great Rolodex, but it's hard to always contact people. So, leverage your LinkedIn areas. Don't be afraid to send pings to people you've had contacts with. But it is a case where both are needed. Without any kind of networking, it becomes very difficult with the AI gatekeeping out there today. And maybe that'll change in 5 years again, and it will become more like it used to be. But a resume by itself does not open nearly as many doors as it used to.
absolutely. And I think one of the things, my observations lately has been that I think people's careers are becoming more broad portfolios where they're doing different things,
Yeah.
as opposed to one resume and then that's it, right? Do you agree with that? Because like people have LinkedIn profiles, people have, you
Yes.
know,
So, I mean,
right?
there's
Yeah.
there's some exceptions to that. Like the public school system is pretty much a vanilla resume. Most people in the public school stay where they are. Outside of industries like that, it's almost silly to use the term unicorn because everyone ends up being a little bit of a unicorn. Don't be afraid to not only hop industries, but job types and job titles. Spend a couple years working curriculum development for a company. You'd be surprised what you learn, and then take that into evangelism and take that into hardware management. Go ahead and bounce around wherever you can get an opportunity as early as you can, because that broad spectrum gets you better contacts, gets you better ability to have good customer conversations. Asking the question, why did you do that, means so much more if you've got perspective from 5 or 6 different chairs around the table.
Absolutely. And I think, like for me, for example, last year, or at least a couple of years, last year and the previous year, I started, tapping into my other passion and skill, which is modeling and pageantry. And people ask, oh, how, but you're in tech, so like, why?
Yeah.
how
How,
that
how can a tech person be into
yeah
modeling?
how
That
oh
doesn't
yeah
fit.
yeah
Yeah.
oh yeah, so many people ask me that, and I was like,
Wow.
uh, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know. And I think one of the reasons that I had joined that community is to actually derive a different kind of confidence that I wanted, that I knew I wouldn't just get from one place, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we do sometimes is we try to find our entire sense of self-worth and our value from like one place. And then when you don't get that recognition, which is possible that sometimes we don't get the recognition that we want from work or from that one career that we have, that then we get disappointed, and we, because we're focused, laser focused on getting it from that one place, right? So finding also like different modalities for deriving recognition and self confidence, those kinds of things also I think matter a lot in your early career. I think really at any point, right? What do you think about that?
If you are thinking about getting a custom license plate for your car and you want to put the business you work for on your license plate, you're kind of doing it wrong. In the sense that it's okay to love your job. It's okay to love what you do. In fact, I hope all of you discover that many times in your life. But ultimately, if you are working for anybody but yourself, a company does not have loyalty to you. People do. You can have loyalty to someone else, but a company does not. So building your entire identity around your job is going to lead to heartbreak in the future, even if just your job description changes. I'm not even saying if you get laid off, which is a different conversation that pretty much everyone in the tech world has had to deal with at some point. I've had to deal with it 3 times myself.
Yeah, same with me.
But just the normal evolution. Oh, you want me to use this product instead of the one I was using before? Well, now I'm not as happy as I was. So having something else, I don't know, learn the flugelhorn,
Yeah.
find something. To me, my thing was woodworking. I got really big into lathe work, turning bowls and spindles and that on a lathe because it was something that had nothing to do with a screen. And at the end, I had made a bowl and that was it. And it was finished, a finished product for a tech person, a job that's over. It was amazing. And so find something that does not involve your job that you can do. It doesn't have to be a hobby that you're proud of and that you show your family. Just find something to do so that you are not your job.
And I think I wish I did that, but I would tie my entire sense of self-worth to my job. And I think that can
We
be,
all do
that can,
accidentally. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that can also be a fundamental sort of uh, worldview for immigrants, because your whole, if you're an immigrant particularly, your whole goal in life is to get that one job, and then so when you get it, you literally safeguard it and protect it like your life depends on it, which it literally does, unfortunately, right?
I, yeah.
Right? But at the same time, I mean, I'm an immigrant too, but I still realized at some point that no, you know what? Sure, I'm an immigrant. Sure, my life depends on this job. All that stuff is true, but I can still expand my worldview, my where I get my self confidence from, where I, because sometimes and confidence also, I think what I've realized is it's not like a static thing, right? Sometimes you're very confident in yourself. Sometimes you just don't feel so confident in yourself, and it's an ebb and flow, right? So
Yes.
nobody's expected to be confident all the time, but I think being intentional about finding places where you will be valued, where you will become confident. Maybe it's, I work closely with animals because it makes me feel like my life has meaning. And then when I go to work, I bring that meaning into work, and I enter work, my 9 to 5, as a full person. You know what I mean?
I couldn't say it better. The idea that the more vectors you have in your life, the more humanity you experience.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say, well, you need to become an AI prompt coach or whatever, because that's not going to be a thing in 3 years anyway. Um, the skill that's going to be needed, though, is